I had my children on the floor. I was on my favourite blanket that my grandmother gave me on the floor like a cat.
And I realised in that moment the potential of what our bodies can really do as women.
Like I could feel his head, I could do my own internal, like, yeah, his head, I could feel it.
I was in tears, I was just in tears and overwhelmed with gratitude.
Hi and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast, the podcast that is bringing embodied birth wisdom from women from all over the world sharing their natural birth stories. Don't forget to subscribe and download so that you can always have access to these empowering and positive natural birth stories. Hi, my name is Anna and I am the Natural Birth Podcast host. I'm a former midwife who left the system and I'm now the proud founder of Sacred Birth International, a woman-owned company with a mission to revolutionize the birth world and bring focus to the sacred and the natural intelligence of the birth process. We do this by providing world-class education, courses, programs, and coaching to equip women with the knowledge and the tools to have conscious pregnancies, empowering and positive birth experiences, and the most nourishing start possible for themselves and their babies postpartum. We also educate and mentor aspiring birth workers into sacred space holders and physiological birth advocates in the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship, the Beyond a Doula training. If you'd like to work with me or take any of our courses, programs, or the mentorship, then head on over to sacredbirthinternational.com to find out more. Hi, Hanna, and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast. How are you today?
I am good. I'm so excited to be here and meet you.
So excited to have you. Today, we're going to dive on back to your early 20s and your journey of preparing to have a child. I am very curious to hear your story, your background story, and then, of course, your journey of having your home birth. So take us back.
Yeah, thank you so much. So now that I am almost 30, I am able to really reflect on what led to the birth of my dreams. And I feel so lucky to be able to say that. So it was about 3 different life events that happened in my early 20s. And they all happened within the same year. And they were just catalysts for opening up my mind to birth, pregnancy, fertility. And I feel so grateful because I feel like I was able to get a jump start and really prepare myself for birth and labor and postpartum and motherhood. And so the first being that I was with a partner that we contracted herpes, and I thought that this was a life-changing, I thought honestly everything was going to be different because my OB actually said right when I was found out that it had happened, she said, well, don't worry, you're going to have a cesarean. It's going to be great. Cesarean is the way to go. You know, people with herpes, they don't birth naturally. And I was 18.
Excuse me, what?
I know.
That is
Yeah.
insane. So anyone
Yeah.
listening, obviously, I'm sure you're going to tell the story, which is great, and I'm going to let you, but no, that is not correct. Hanna, take it away.
Thank you, Anna. Because I was 18 and I sat there and truly said, okay, yeah, I'm going to have a cesarean. That's the way. And yep. And literally, probably over the next 6 months, I started to listen to podcasts and I heard a woman, she was so brave, and she shared that she had a home birth with herpes and it was not even a problem. And so that took me through absolutely doula work, every podcast I could consume, every bit of information about birth. My birth nerd exploded in me. And I felt like the advocacy part of myself was like, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to know my options and find it all out. So yeah, I was shocked by her. And I feel so grateful that I was able to fight that back because It's not the only way. Herpes is
Definitely.
not a
Mm-mm.
deciding factor on how you birth. And it turned out that it had really no effect on my birth. Um, so the second life event is that as I was 19, I was sexually assaulted, and in college, it just it just changed the course of how I interacted with my body. Um, that safety was taken away, but in many ways, it absolutely made me just work so hard to get it back. Um, and so I did a lot of work, like abdominal massage, so much therapy, and I started to learn about women's stories of birthing after sexual assault and working on finding that team that made you feel safe. Um,
Mm.
and so that was a big aspect of how I connected back into my body. And I spent almost the entire 10 years working on that. And I'm so grateful to my little self to actually have done the work, because I feel like so many women that have experienced that and then go into birth and then experience even more trauma and more unconsensual treatment towards their body. It's devastating. Um, So that was the body piece of it. So we have my like birth nerd doula, and then my body piece, and then my emotional mother self really tapped in. My dad had a stroke. He was 60 and I was 19, and he had a stroke that just changed his life. His speech and his physical body was taken away from him. And so I became a caretaker, and I felt like I entered my motherhood early as his daughter, but it really felt like I was mothering him through this massive transition. And so I spent, again, almost my entire 20s, all the way up to as we were entering like conception era. Um, and his journey is a whole other one, but I feel also so grateful that he was able to ignite that mother in me. Um, and so, yeah, so now we're kind of up to the conception part of the story.
Thank you so much for sharing all these pieces, and I'm sure we're going to hear more of that. And first of all, again, just like when you heard someone speak about herpes, I think it's so important to do so because actually so many women have it, or people just, it's very common.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to know that no, you don't have to have a cesarean. The risks of having an outbreak and that affecting the baby is very small. If it's not contracted like that weak kind of thing, and you're like, obviously, in there's blisters and all of that, that's a different story. We can talk about cesarean then. But like, if you contracted years ago and you don't have blisters, like it's non-active, that is it's a non-issue. And there's ways of keeping your, because it's immunity, right? So just keeping your immunity strong, making sure you don't have an outbreak. Stressors is usually a part of what people have an outbreak for, and just knowing those things going into your pregnancy and also labor and birth. And yes, you can absolutely have a natural vaginal birth anywhere. It's not a high risk thing. Again, if you didn't contract it yesterday and you go into labor and with blisters, yes, we can talk about that. And, secondly, again, thank you so much for sharing. Again, it's so common actually also with sexual assault, right? And it's so important to know that that can resurface in labor and birth. Um, Also just from the sensation actually of a baby coming through your vaginal canal. And so if you're listening to this and you have had sexual trauma of some sort, and that's so different what that means for someone, to know that talking about it with your midwife or your doula, your birth support, people who's going to be at your birth is so important, and for your partner. And because if it does resurface, if you have flashbacks, if you have, fear of birthing, or when you're actually like bearing down and all of this, that people around you know and can call you back into your body and remind you that you're safe and rewire those pathways that might flag something as traumatic. And I've cared for women who have had this experience, and I think what you just mentioned, who is at your birth is paramount, especially when we had this experience. To trust them and that they fully know your story and that you feel so safe with them is everything. And you can really heal through birth, actually, with these experiences that you've had. It's beautiful that you can do that.
Yeah. And you're so right. It did feel healing. It felt like really reclaiming my body. Yeah. And my baby did that. Like so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Little angels. All right, well, let's dive on into then conceiving your baby, shall we?
Yeah. So my husband and I, um, so around the time that my husband and I were getting married, my dad's health actually started to take a turn. So we were getting married in Ireland, where my family is from, but he was in the States in a nursing home. And so we actually pushed up our wedding to get married in his nursing home. And he became lucid on this day, on our wedding anniversary, like on our wedding day. So it was just like a gift for him to come back, and he was able to, walk me down the aisle. He was pushed in a wheelchair by my sister, and um, I feel like we were really having those like special moments leading up to building our family, that I had been dreaming of as like a little girl. And so we got married, and then we spent 10 months preparing for birth or preparing for conception. I have anxiety, and I don't know if other women will resonate, but the fear of, like, I haven't tried yet, but I have a fear of having challenges with fertility. And so I wanted to do everything to just support my body, to support my husband's body, to give us the best possible chance. I hadn't been on birth control for almost all of my 20s. So we were tracking my cycle, taking all the supplements, kind of rechanging our home to make sure it was as healthy as possible, exercising and eating sperm and egg health, nutrient-rich food. And it really felt like him and I had this little bubble before becoming parents, where we just got to put all of our energy into this little baby, making their space a safe place to come home to, making my body as healthy as possible. So, and I do think it helped my husband actually really kind of sink in where we were headed. We were headed into parenthood. So we had these really powerful conversations, what do we want it to look like? What do we want our day to look like as parents? And so that was all leading up to it. And my dad did end up passing away just about 3 months before I got pregnant. And it was so hard to let go of him. Gosh. Um, but I knew him, and I knew that it was just a knowing that it was time. Um, we had spent 8 years in this battle of just trying to bring him back from the stroke, and his body was just not one that was comfortable to live in. He was trapped in it. And so he left and became, I feel like, just such a guardian angel. And the spiritual aspect of going and meeting our babies. And I feel like he was there to welcome them and to kind of usher them through. And I feel like that gave me so much comfort. And, that's what I tell myself, to give myself comfort. But I think other people believe in that aspect. And so, yeah, so we ended up trying. It was our first month trying, which I just feel so grateful. And funnily enough, there's always going to be jokes on us when we try to plan too much. I thought my cycle was going to be 1 week. And so I told my husband to go ahead and go on a vacation. And last minute, that one cycle that we tried, it changed up on me, and I started ovulating earlier. And so I had to like rush and like get out of work, go on this family vacation to go try to conceive our baby with all of his family. So thankfully his family is incredible, and we're able to laugh about it now, but we were on a mission. and life plays funny jokes on us. Um, but yeah, we were able to bring our baby home to my belly, and it felt so good after so many years of dreaming it. It was the best. Like, oh my gosh, the biggest relief to know that my body was there and ready to welcome this little angel. Um, and simultaneously enough, the man that sexually assaulted me died that same week that I conceived, which nowhere in my bingo card did I imagine that that would happen. Um, I had just found out, and my family actually knew before me, but they were letting me just enjoy this space of finding out. And I found out on my own, and I was never expecting to have a sense of safety, knowing that the person that hurt me was gone, and that I really felt like I had a daughter with me, and she and I were going to be physically safe here. Um, and it was so wild to have these chapters that opened and then closed all within the same timeline. It really felt like that maiden was coming to a completion. And she was getting all of these signs and this knowing that, like, it's your time now. It's this mother time in you that's just stepping up. Um, and so I feel so grateful for that. And I also became a therapist all throughout this. And so my therapist brain was just like, this is wild stuff. Um, yeah. So yeah, so we're now pregnant. Um, pregnancy was really hard. I had a lot of dreams for myself and I had a lot of romanticized visions of pregnancy, but it was just so hard. Um, it was, I'm so grateful I had a therapist at the time that we did a style of therapy called parts work, acknowledging the different parts of ourselves, the different roles we play, the different, hats we put on. And so we were really able to take the entire pregnancy and honor each part of myself as the challenges arised. Pregnancy or morning sickness was no joke. Being a therapist and like almost gagging the entire time, trying to like be calm, cool, collected was not a fun challenge. Um, and I actually lost my grandmother around like 14 weeks. But I was able to tell her that I was having a baby, and she said so clearly, she was like, she's a girl. She's my girl. She's my girl. And I was like, we're not finding out. I know. And she was like, I know, but she's our girl. And I was like, okay, I kind of believe it too, but I don't want to like put too many eggs in that basket. Um, and so as we moved through the pregnancy, we had our midwives, they incredible team. Um, it was a team of two midwives, and so we would meet with one or the other at each appointment. Um, and I so appreciated that of just knowing that like I was able to bond so deeply with both of them, and they both came with different um, just energy and just like they played a different role in the pregnancy and the birth. And so as we moved through, oh my gosh, I started getting Braxton Hicks so early. Like I think my sister is the same way. She was like, yep, totally normal. But um they were just my belly was just tight all the time. And so now looking back, it makes a lot more sense. I thought I was dehydrated, and everyone would always tell me, like, you're just dehydrated, you're dehydrated. But I'm a big water girl, and my midwives were even like, Hannah, you're drinking almost too much water. Like, you need to like actually not drink as much water. Like, like it's okay to have Braxton Hicks. Like, this is a good, like, your body is just toning and getting ready. And they were checking all my signs. And so it wasn't really a concern for them, which I was so grateful for. And so as we got closer, like 34 weeks, consistent, 36 weeks, 37 weeks, 38 weeks. I mean, It was the most mind-boggling game of my life because I was like, they were so consistent. And so my midwives were like, this can totally be prodromal labor. Um, and my sister had prodromal labor, and she was like, there are so many pros and cons. Your body is probably doing the work slowly over this long period of time. Um, and I really do feel like that's what it did. I feel like I did early labor basically through like 3 weeks leading up to when I gave birth, which is fascinating. Um, and it really exhausting. So it was like 6 hours a day where it was like rhythmic, really working through them and just like enjoying them. My midwives promoted just like, this is your practice. Like, just get comfortable with them and like use your hypnobirthing, use those like, use the TENS unit, just get comfortable. Like, I'm a muscle memory person, so I was like, this is a great opportunity to just like dive in. Um, and so part of them, I loved them. I danced and played, and my husband and I would just like swing around the house. And so at the time, I did not enjoy them, but looking back, it was a very special time.
Was it during the day or during the night, or was it happening the same time every day, or?
Yeah, so it was pretty much the same time every day, and then nighttime would come and they would go away.
Oh, so it's during the
Um,
day as well.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
interesting. Usually see you during the night, so that's better
yeah.
though.
It was better because I was able to like enjoy. I'm thinking, so I had a day birth. I think that my body felt safest at day, and my night was really my like I think my body was so intuitive knowing that like this was the path. Or maybe, it was my baby giving me a little gift. Um, so we at 38 weeks, I had a high blood pressure. Really just like whew, so intense. And I've so appreciated, honestly, it was your podcast that I just like listened over and over of just like, I'm so grateful for midwives that don't sound alarm bells right away when they see a high blood pressure. There's so many reasons for a high blood pressure. Everything looked so good besides me having anxiety. Um, and so we, they were so sweet. They would just come to my house and take my blood pressure at home. And working with my therapist, I had some ties, some trauma with the blood pressure machine and my dad. And we were able to really fight back. And I got my blood pressures, honestly, even better than like they were like optimal blood pressures. But I know if I wasn't in midwifery care, I support so many women that go through that one blood pressure check and it changes the course of their birth. And it's just devastating. So I was grateful for them. And so yeah, 39 weeks rolls around. And in my head, so my baby was due like right around my dad's birthday. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this baby's going to be born on my birthday. I've been having this prodromal labor and it's the day, and the contractions were all day. They were beautiful. They were 6 minutes apart and not super rhythmic, but they were there and getting more intense. And now looking back, I think that was my early labor. So I feel like it was definitely like a nice chunk where my husband and I spent the entire day thinking baby was coming. And the wonderful thing about home birth is there's nowhere to go. So there's no pressure. It's like there's no wonderment of like, oh my gosh, it's the time to go. It's like, no, just be home. Um, and so it got to about 10 p.m. and it hit me. I was not having a baby on my dad's birthday, and I grieved and grieved. Because I just wondered, like, gosh, like I thought that there was going to be this special connection. I had this romantic version in my head, and they would share this birthday and they'd be connected forever, and just little girl dreams. And then a week rolled by and still no baby. So we're at 40 weeks, and this prodromal labor is still just hanging in there, driving my brain wild.
And it's
And
still about 6 hours during the day. Hmm.
yeah.
Wow.
it was just, my belly was just like, just wild. And they were wrapping, like they were going from my back to my belly in these low, beautiful, like strong contractions. Um, but once I felt active labor contractions, they were not that. So they were definitely early contractions. So um, it was 40 and 2 weeks. Um, and I really got in my head. I was fighting all of these fears that I thought that I had squashed. Ah, and it was so frustrating because I felt like I was so like ready and like had all my tools ready and but it felt like all those days leading up to it, it just kind of like wore me down. And I really started to question like, is baby okay? Am I making the right choice of home birthing? It took us so long to choose to home birth. Like I was so fearful of being that, first time mom. And I was like, am I about to prove everyone right? That was fearful. And have to go to the hospital and feel like a failure and just heavy, heavy thoughts coming in. Um, and so it was about 6 o'clock at night, and I was like, I looked at my husband, I was like, I need to take a bath. I need to meditate. I need to just figure out what's going on in my head. I need to check in with baby. Like, whew, like there's way too much going on. I'm feeling that like peaking up of anxiety. And, come to find out next day, it all happened. So it makes sense now. Um, and so I meditated on it and really checked in on my parts and really just really wanted to ask, like, baby, are you okay? Like, tell me, give me signs. I think the doula part of me had seen too many traumatic things and heard too many traumatic stories. I think it might be a common experience. Um, it's like I know everything that can go wrong, and it was flooding into me. And I had this image of the cord being wrapped around her neck, and she wasn't descending because of that. And so I wrote an email to my midwife. It was about 6:30, and I was like, okay, I'm going to write it out. I'm just going to let my body know I'm listening to this fear, but I'm not going to send it yet. I'm going to sleep on it. I can feel baby moving. I have every sign, like baby is telling me that everything is okay. I have every sign that it's okay. We're safe. So I need to just rest. And I went to bed at 7:30 in at night. I never go to bed that early because I'm dealing with contractions all day. And I get an 8 full hours of sleep from 7:30 to 3:30 a.m. And I slept like a log. Like it was the best sleep of my whole pregnancy. Um, so baby was looking out for me. And so we 3:30 rolled around and I started to feel my contractions and I was like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing so early? It's early in the morning." Didn't really pay attention to them because I had kind of felt like gaslit by my contractions that I was like, "Nope, get away from me." And so I just rolled side to side and didn't really pay attention to it. I think I started to like tap my contraction timer every once in a while in like a daze. And finally at like 5 o'clock, 5:15 in the morning, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like they seem a little bit more rhythmic. They're like 8 minutes apart. Interesting. Okay. But like again, I'm probably gonna go to 41 weeks, probably 42 weeks. Um, and we and baby. I rolled to the side and I put my leg over my pregnancy pillow, kind of like in that extended, like leg up move. And I felt this like bink, a tiny rubber band felt like it just snapped on my belly. And I was like, did I just like snap a ligament getting into a position in my bed? Like, did I just hurt my body? And then all of a sudden it just whooshed all over my bed. And I closed my legs immediately and rolled in this like slow shimmy to the edge of the bed and stood up and just whoosh all over the ground like the movie. I was not expecting that. I'd never even put that. I feel like water spontaneous eruption of membranes is so not common. And I was not expecting it. And of course, I like turned to my husband and I'm like, My water just broke. Like, oh my gosh, babe, this is what? And he hops up out of bed and he runs to the little sheet of paper on the kitchen where the midwife said, like, if your waters break, here's what to do. And I immediately was like doula mode. I was like sniffing it and I was like, oh my gosh, it smells amazing. Like it smells perfect. Like little pink tinge and like mucus. It just, I was like, oh my gosh, the birth nerd in me was so excited. Um, and then it sunk in. I was like, we got to get ready. Like, it's time. But then internally, I kept saying, and externally, like, this is my first time. Your water's just broke. We don't know what's going to happen. Take it slow, take it slow. Put on a diaper. I didn't feel like I could rest. So I really wanted to get the house ready. But internally, I was like, Hannah, this could be 24 to 48 hours. Like, you have got to be chill. So I turned on some music. And for the first hour, it was just like my husband and I just like cleaning the house, getting organized. I mean, he was like hoovering and washing dishes, and we were listening to music. Um, and it was a very sweet hour. The contractions, they were there, but they were still early, and they were still like my prodromal. And I was just losing so much water. My belly was so big, I didn't have a belly button. It was just flat. And the second my waters broke, my belly was just in so much relief. Like it felt, I wasn't expecting that either. And so the first hour goes by. We let the midwives know about within that first hour at like 6:30 in the morning, which was great because she got a full night's rest too. She gets up around 6. And so she was like, this is fun. I'm having my cup of coffee. I appreciate you. And we let our birth team know. But I again was just telling everyone, like, take your time. Nothing's happening. Like, we're fine. Well, 6:30 rolls around, and after I've told everyone to not worry about me, that like this is going to take a lot of time, I was crawling on the floor with contractions. I mean, I was just like, it hit so fast. Active labor just dove in. And I was like, okay, we need to put every single coping mechanism on the table right now. Like, TENS unit got put on, birth combs in. My husband was doing just the most incredible hip squeezes, like absolutely perfect hip squeezes. I couldn't do a contraction without him. I would like call him back in. I have quite a low pain tolerance. And so I did hypno babies my entire pregnancy. I was super devoted to it, worked really hard on the hypnosis aspect of it because I really wanted something on board for when things get really hard, if I could just have somewhere to go. I really wanted that tool. I'd heard some moms that it's helpful, and then other moms it hasn't been. And so I was like, I just want it in my toolkit. And I listened to it every night, most of the days. Like I was so in it. Well, I turned on my track and I walked away and I heard her voice and I was like, absolutely not. She has no idea what I'm going through. Her voice is not the voice I want right now. And I turned it off immediately, which is so funny. I do think that there was value actually probably with like sleep and like really supporting my body with rest during pregnancy. But for birth, it wasn't a tool that I needed for this birth. This birth was so active, which I hope next birth I can try to be less active. But this birth was so intense and fast in some ways that that when I heard her, she like sent like yuck vibes, which is so funny. I wasn't expecting that at all. And so I ended up turning on this beautiful song. It's about an 8-minute song that I played for my dad while he was passing. It actually took him 8 days to pass. And so he's a Buddhist. And so he really, like, we just created this really special space for him and played all of the songs that he loved. And I turned on this song and we listened to it for the entire birth and labor. And now when I hear it, like knowing that like both of those, they're intertwined, like those memories. And honestly, death and birth, there's just so many similarities, so many unknowns, and just so much presence that is needed. And that team wrapping you up in light. It's just, I feel so grateful that he gave me that experience because the doula in both aspects, it was like so needed. And so I listened to that and it really just started to intensify. And so I called my midwives back and I was like, guys, this is a lot harder than I thought. This just came upon me really fast. And they just were the most calming energy of like, Hanna, you have prepared. You have done all of this incredible work. Like it's time now. Like you get to use it, like tap in, go in, you're here now. And so they made their plan to join within the next few hours. And I let my doula know, who's my best friend, and her and I have attended now all of our home births with each other. So we have this just really special bond of just not the doulaship of offering advice or suggestions. It's that doulaship of just that like that wisdom of just being with women and just knowing that I could look to her as like an anchor for myself. And her and I have been friends for, oh my gosh, I think I was like 13. And so she has seen me through every iteration of my life. And for her to be a witness of the spiritual path into motherhood, and for me to witness hers, it just felt like this beautiful karmic, yeah, really spiritual, just knowing that she was there and she was filming, which was my dream. I wanted it all filmed because I tend to dissociate, and I think we all do in birth in many ways for protection. But I wanted it filmed. I still have a hard time watching it back because it was so intense. And so student midwives arrive, they check on baby. I thought I was going to feel really I thought I wanted to be really hands off, and I thought the Doppler was going to feel really invasive. But I feel like my relationship with my midwives and the team just felt so safe and supported that they just did a beautiful job of making it feel so consensual and empowering. I loved hearing this little baby's heart rate. I loved knowing that I was safe. And it was like my medical sign of knowing, like, keep going. She's doing great. I didn't know she was a she at the time, but like baby's doing great. Um, and so the midwife arrived. Everyone was just kind of getting settled in. It was only like 10 o'clock in the morning. It had just been a few hours. Um, and my goodness, that once my midwife came, I was like, can I get in the tub? I know it's early. Like, this is going to take all day, but like, can I just take a break in the tub? Um, Little did I know that I was about half an hour from transitioning. Happened so fast, like not what I expected. Um, and so once I got in the tub, the contraction, I would probably say, I have no idea. I never got cervically or checked, or I did at the very end, but I hadn't been checked. So I had no idea where I was, which is what I wanted. I really did not want to be told that this intensity of my pain was a 2 or a 3. That would just devastate me. And feel like I would need to go to the hospital. So I got in the tub and I was like, maybe I can just have a minute to relax. Well, the contractions just were roaring through me. And oh my gosh, I was doing wild things. I was a wild animal and I was holding onto the tub with the little handles and just like writhing around. When I watched some of the videos, I was like, I don't think that that's safe for how wild I was being. And my husband, oh, love him so much. After the birth, I was like, oh, I don't even know where he was. No, he was literally, his hands were on me the entire time, but I couldn't even pay attention to that. But he was trying so hard. I had my birth combs and I was just trying to divert the pain anywhere. And it was just a sensation I had never felt. It was like the most expansive pain, but also like acceptance. It was like someone on your podcast said, like, you're just going to do it. And I was like, okay, that was very simple advice. but in my head, like that was so helpful because it was just like, you're just gonna do it. Like you're just doing it right now. And I had this really silly mantra. My doula at the time like thought that it was like this really special mantra. It was heave ho. Heave ho was all I could say. But I was saying like he ho. But internally I was just like a cart and horse just trying to heave ho through my birth. Um, and it was that lead up to transition was just those were some wild contractions, but I'm so grateful that I didn't know it was transition. Um, because I feel like I was able to just accept where I was no matter where baby was. Um, and then I started to push, I started to feel that pressure, and it was like 11:30 and I was like, this is way too soon. Like, I am definitely pushing on a little lip of a cervix. Like, I can't possibly be complete. It's only been a few hours. Um, and so my midwives were definitely watching it felt like an undulation, like down and through my body. And I had no control over it. Um, and I was really hopeful for the fetal ejection reflex. I'd heard so many women experiencing that, and I just felt so empowered by like baby really doing and just like the two of us just working together. And I think I felt a little bit, but this is where my stuckness from my sexual assault really came in. It felt like my canal, there was just so much tenderness, and of course, it's so uncomfortable for every mom, no matter how you birth. But it was like it was so scary to push on my pelvis and to actually like engage down. That I was just for about an hour, it was just I would like touch on it, like I would just tip on it, like push down a little bit or like send energy down just a little bit. But I was so not scared, but it was just so intense. And I did get those flashbacks, and I was just really like really in and out of my body. Um, my midwives were just so tapped in and they knew my story. And she was like, I can see that hesitation. Would it feel safe and comfortable for me to check you so that you feel safe to really like know that it's your baby's there and you can actually push and you're not pushing on that any cervix. And at that point I was like, yes, please just be in my body. Like help me do something, please. And she was so sweet. She did it in the tub, so consensual, so gentle. And I mean, she just went in just a bit and she was like, Hannah, your baby's right there. I can feel hair, like you're doing it. Your baby is right there. Um, and you've done it, like such an incredible accomplishment. Just so big to get through that. I had so much fear of like, will I have the pain tolerance to get through labor? Um, but I will say, for me, pushing was really where the big challenge came in. I felt like I was snapping in half. I felt I could feel everything. And I think I had heard so many stories of women with epidurals where they said pushing was the relief phase. And even honestly, women that are unmedicated, some people find the pushing to be so much relief. For me, it was the opposite. It was where all of my tension and all of that emotional stuff came up. And so my midwife was so gentle. She was like, what if we just shift and move into the bedroom? Just, we can clean up the tub. Of course, all the fun stuff had happened in the tub. And so she was like, we can clean up the tub and just give you space, rest in the bed, just like give yourself some time. It had been about an hour of just like this like temperate pushing, um, and just tapping, kind of like tapping on my pushes. And so we walked into the bedroom, which was a mighty walk to feel a baby's head so low in my body and just to kind of feel my pelvis just like And I'm sure the walking helped so much, just like helping baby down. And in my bedroom, we changed things up to really, I'm just so appreciative. We used olive oil and compress, and I was able to like have my team, like my midwife was in front of me, and she's just this wise woman that has had these births and she's known what it is to survive. And that's really what it felt like. It felt like I was gonna die. And it was like this shedding that was happening, and it was so almost hallucinogenic. Like I was seeing these beautiful and devastating images of like my past life and just like this fading away. And I had the birth team behind me really supporting my perineum. And I started to use my fingers to actually just like massage the head and massage my perineum, which, as someone who has experienced that sexual trauma, it just felt like a reclaiming of my body to be able to know that it was my hands. There was no gloves. It was just me and this baby. And I was able to talk the whole time. Oh my gosh, the whole time I would just thank the baby. I was just, thank you, baby, thank you, baby. And I really feel like talking the whole time just helped me just like stay so grounded. And her and I were just in this like rhythm. And at this point, I totally gave up saying like baby. I was like she. And even the midwife was like, she was calling her a she too. We were like, we are about to be really surprised if it's a point, because we have just totally sent into the that yeah, she. And so my midwife is sitting in front of me, and I can almost the image was that my midwife was holding like a candle or like a little lantern, and she was saying this just beautifully and rhythmically, like, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. And it felt like she was kind of like leading me down this birth portal. And I just felt like deaths behind me, which was just wild. But I never felt fearful. It wasn't, I wasn't scared, which I would think that I would be scared, but I felt so safe. It just felt like it was what needed to happen. I was doing what I needed to do. And honestly, the death was the beautiful part of it, that I was trusting my body enough to push down and to bear down and to connect with my baby and to allow my body to open, to let this baby out. And we progressed, and she came almost all the way. So like I could really, like with my fingers, I could feel the brow starting to come. And internally I said, my doula part was like, wait, we got to go back in the tub. Like, hold on. We got to get, like, if we birth this baby any further, like we could have a land birth. And I'm envisioning this birth tub birth. And my husband was like, please stay in bed. Like, you're doing great. Like, do not walk right now. uh, but I had a dream, and I had this vision of myself birthing in a tub, and maybe it was my baby's dream, and her and I together we marched with my hand holding squishy head. And it was the most painful walk. It felt like a bowling ball between my legs. And we were going and going and got back to our birth tub, and it was about 3 feet high. And I looked at it and I was like, no way. No way can I get my leg in there with a baby between my legs. Um, and a contraction started to come, and I was like, all right. And I swung my leg over, obviously with all the help, got my leg over. And I was leaning over the edge of the tub in a kneeling position, and it was just 5, 10 minutes later, and I got the brow out and then the head, and my husband was holding her head on the other side, and I was looking into the eyes of my midwife, and oh, I just felt so safe. I felt so supported. And she just let me know every little step where I was, just so calmly. And especially for my first birth, never experiencing that, knowing that I was going to be okay. It was just so important to have her there. It felt so good. But I will say, that stretch, not that comfortable. It was really not comfortable. I was like, so it was when I was like, can another contraction come, please? Like, I am ready to get this baby out. And then I felt the full shoulders turn, and what an uncomfortable, but just powerful experience to feel this baby just doing what they needed to do. She just felt so strong turning. And then baby came out, and my husband guided her through my legs, and I brought her onto my chest, and I sat back immediately. An instant relief, the best relief in my entire life. Like, it just was gone. And I feel so connected to my ancestors, and I feel like everyone was there with me, that while I was trying to come back into my body and trying to be there, I was holding her, and she was quite blue. She looked a little stunned, but she was taking her time, and my midwives were on it, really just like checking all, but they were doing such a consensual job of allowing me to be there, but also just allowing me to come back into my body for a moment. But in the video, when I rewatch it, I can hear the first thing I say is take your time, take your time, take your time. And it's something my grandfather would say to my family. It was his phrase. And even his intonation and the way he said it, it just felt like he was there for a moment, just telling both of us to take our time, and that everything is okay. And I just felt so surrounded by my guardian angels. It was so cool. And I felt so grateful to be able to even be present for that. Felt like a real gift. So we still don't know the gender. And I start saying, is she okay? Is she okay? And I say, I don't even know what she is. Wait. And so my husband checks her legs, in between her legs, and he says, it's a girl. And it's like I was getting to live something that I feel like was already within me for so many years. I feel like I had seen this moment of meeting my daughter for so many years. It was the coolest thing in the world. And I feel like after all that, like all of that I had been through, it felt like I was being gifted, for all. It was just like, it was like I was being handed this little present of like you did it. It was all worth it. Everything you did, like here, like we're so proud of you. And like you knew, I knew it was my girl. And I love hearing other moms being open about that, because I really feel like, and sometimes spirit babies like to surprise us, but I really, there's some of those spirit babies that we just feel so connected with. Yeah, so we gave birth at home within like 7, 8 hours. Like it was so fast for me. But yeah. And so as we waited in the tub for a little bit, but I was like, I'm done. This tub is funky. I was like, I am ready to go. So I got out of the tub. They helped me out, and I was carrying baby, and baby pinked up pretty quick. And so we brought her into bed. And I think I birthed the placenta, gosh, maybe like an hour and a half after. They were so calm and supportive, and just like allowed me to trust my body with that. I think after a little bit, I was kind of getting like antsy about it. And I was like, I need to just stand up. And it just popped out like a big jello piece. Um, and no hemorrhaging, no nothing. It was a beautiful experience. I felt so grateful to my team, and my team then left at like 5 o'clock. It was wild. It was like they were like, we just had a 9 to 5 birth, Hannah. This is so strange. They were like, thank you. But yeah, I felt like baby was really looking out for me and looking out for my mental health, giving me that good nights of rest, and then allowing me to just, I felt like it was exactly how her and I needed to birth, especially for my first time. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Wow, what a beautiful story from start to finish. Absolutely. Beautiful. You've touched on so many beautiful things. There's so much wisdom. I love your story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I so
And
appreciate it.
yeah. And if you had a first-time mama in front of you right now who's about to have her first baby and she
Yeah.
really wants to have a natural and empowering birth experience, what advice and pearls of wisdoms would you
Mm.
give to her?
Mm. I think I have two little pieces. The first being that I think when we choose home birth or birth center, it's such a powerful choice. Um, and there are aspects of the hospital that can be so helpful, especially postpartum with that care. And so I feel like as a first-time mom, I had a lot of people reminding me of like really setting up that postpartum experience, um, having lactation support coming in. I had my therapist appointment like very close after, having body work, having people drop off food, just really like surrounding myself with the kind of care that the hospital can offer, but that really homely experience. Um, and so I feel like absolutely allow yourself, like you deserve it, like you deserve postpartum support, and to set yourself up because those first days are hard. Those first days are so hard. Um, I'm so grateful to have a sister. She really stepped up for me. She has three babies, and I think it was like night two or three, and I was quite terrified for breastfeeding, especially with my relationship with my body. And she would take baby, I would nurse baby, and then she would kind of take baby in the other room and snuggle, and I would try to rest. And one night she came in, I think it was like the second or third night, and she looked at me in the eyes and she was like, Hannah, I am so sorry. Tonight is cluster feed night. She's going to bring your milk in. This is going to be so hard. And I'm here with you. Like, I'm not leaving you. Like, I'm going to be right beside you. This is an intense time. Like, I'm just giving you a heads up. Bringing your milk in is not easy. Um, but I'm not going to leave you. And she slept in bed beside me and just like held baby as she could. But I mean, they nursed all time. And so, really having, whether it's a sister, whether it's a best friend or a doula, postpartum doula, having someone that you just feel so safe with to just like be in these transitions. It felt so helpful to have her. Oh my gosh, it was like probably one of our best moments together. Um, and then my second piece, as you know, there's so little that we can control with birth and honestly pregnancy. We don't get to decide, no matter how much we prepare, we can't really control a ton of it. We really have to surrender. And I feel like a reminder that I needed, and I often remind a lot of my friends that, maybe their birth didn't go the way that they were hoping to, or they experienced something traumatic. Everything we do to prepare, every manifestation, every dream, every hope, every building that we do for our babies, like it still lives in us and it lives inside of our babies. And uh, it never goes to waste. I think oftentimes like we prepare for this big event and it doesn't happen. And so we feel like that failure. And it's like, you are not a failure. Everything you did leading up to that, those are still memories. All of those feelings your baby got to carry with you and will continue to carry with you. Um, and it's just so, you know, both things can live within us, that challenging birth that honestly makes you an incredible mom. And also those dreams that you had that may not have come into the physical form, but you still felt them and your baby still felt them. So, yeah, I just want to offer grace to all the mamas out there. It's so hard.
Yeah, I think that's really wise to say because at the end of the day, we can only, as you say, like we can optimize and do all the preparation and have the dream, but it is out of our control. It's in the great mystery. And as soon as that first contraction hits, it's really the big surrender. And that is, where you have to fully trust your team that you have, yourself, your body, your baby in birth to lead you where you're supposed to go. And I truly do not believe that there's any failure in birth ever,
No.
in any kind of birth. No birth is better than another. You have the birth that you're supposed to have somehow for whatever reason. And some people have a really hard time in pregnancy or maybe getting pregnant. Some people have a hard time birthing. Some people have a hard time parenting or early postpartum, breastfeeding, whatever it is. Usually no one goes through smoothly through conception, pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. You know, life has its ups and downs, and it's through the challenges and what we would call something that, you know, we perceive as negative is truly where also the wisdom and gem lies and where our depth comes from.
Mhm.
So it's us, our human mind wants to label it as negative or positive, or but truly it's just an experience, and it's what you then do with that experience.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Oh, so beautifully put. And you've helped so many moms. I mean, I think I listened to your podcast every single day of my pregnancy because it was a safe place. It was somewhere safe where I knew that I was seen as a mom for the style and the hopes and the wisdom. So I so appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. Lovely to hear.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as the Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.